Hi guys, can you let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me, please? I'd be grateful if you can message down below. I think this night might be useful for all this wet weather. Yes, it will be useful, and I'll talk about it, Becky. I hope you don't mind me calling Becky or Rebecca. Yeah, it's going to be useful, not just because of the wet weather. Some of this stuff is stain resistant as well, so I'm just going to talk you through that anyway. Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. Right, okay, so it's not a long live. I'm going to be doing some different lives through the year, where it's going to be techniques and stuff. It's just so it can help me. It's so it can help me basically gather information or write a pattern for up and coming lives. Also, excuse me. Also, I'm always getting asked certain questions, and I don't want to have to keep repeating myself. So if I've got video for Fred's Gang members, I can just basically send them the link and it will teach them to it. So thank you everybody. Yeah, I can see you, me. Right, okay, so we've got a few people watching. I don't expect many people because a lot of people that follow in Fred's Gang are people that want to make or learn about the bag. But this is actually quite a vital thing. So I used to make to sell. I still make, and I still waterproof. So when I used to make to sell, I did use to waterproof everything that I made, even if it was cork fabric. The only things that I didn't waterproof was PU fabric. It's plastic based, you don't need to. And you're probably thinking, well, corks live in a bottle, and the wine doesn't come out of the top because the cork's waterproof. But the cork is cut so thinly on some cork fabrics and some of the woven bases that the cork fabric sits on top, it's still leakable and and water can actually leak through. Now it might not it be marginal, but if you've got a writing pad, for instance, in there, over time that writing pad, if you don't take it out, it will be wet and then like you'll get mold basically in your bag. How do I know? Because it happened to me. So yeah, so I do waterproof cork fabric, but I will tell you what fabrics I use with certain waterproof as because some you can't use certain waterproof things. Right, so I'm going to go to a slide first. Let me just get rid of this. I'm going to go to the first slide, and I'm going to talk you through Scotchgard. So Scotchgard is what I use all the time. And this is for every style of everyday bag that I use. When I say Scotchgard, Scotchgard is actually a brand. It's a silicone base, water protective spray that you normally spray on tents, outdoor fabrics, uh, salopettes if you're a skier or a snowboarder, your jackets. So when I buy a new coat, 9 times out of 10 it says water resistant. They're covering their backs. So what I tend to do is I take it to my dad's because he's got a garden. I put it on a coat hanger, take it into the greenhouse and spray it from back to front over 2 days basically. Now I'll talk you through how to do it. I'll come back to the camera and show you how to do it without spraying because you need ventilation. But waterproof spray is very, very reasonably priced. So so the brand on the left is called Scotchgard. That's the main biggest brand out there. It's the most expensive. I've put a note underneath underneath each of these bottles to explain what could happen to your fabric. So with Scotchgard, because it's a heavy silicone based spray, what you will find is the hue of the fabric will change. So if you've got for instance, a green fabric and it's a light green, you will find it will go at least 2 shades darker or 3 shades darker. The more you spray on it, the darker it goes. So I personally am not a keen lover of Scotchgard. but I look for a spray that's got a mild Scotchgard in it. So the three other brands that I've put on there have got Scotchgard in them. So I will talk you through the ones in the middle, which is the yellow ones. This is for outdoor fabrics. It's great for outdoor fabrics like cotton canvas. Even if you buy waterproof canvas. So, for instance, if you bought some waterproof canvas from Laura and you go and wipe it with a baby wipe afterwards, that's your biggest mistake there because that's got a detergent on the baby wipe or it's got something like a cleaning soap on it. What you're doing is taking a protective layer off the waterproof part. So even with Laura's canvases, or even with any waterproof canvases, I do actually spray even more Scotchgard on. So you can use the outdoor fabric. However, I have made a note on this one. It can darken the brighter fabrics and leave drip marks. So, for instance, because it's already an outdoor fabric, i.e., waterproof canvas is already porous from water and water doesn't leak through, you will tend to find that your spray, if you oversaturate the spray, it's not sinking into the twill and it can actually go through to the other side. So if you're using cotton fabric, for instance, like quilter's weight cotton, I wouldn't preferly use that brand. That's the two bottles underneath. You're probably wondering why there's two bottles. On Amazon, good old Amazon. If you go on Amazon and you look up these brands, they do sell them singly, but it's cheaper to buy them in packs of two. So that's why I've put two of each. It just works out that, like, so the black tin, they're £9.99 each, or for £10.99 you can have a pack of two. What you're going to do is buy a pack of two. Right, okay. So my two chosen brands are the black one and the Home and Garden Wear. Now I religiously use the Home and Garden one. They have mild Scotchgard in it. So when I say mild Scotchgard, it means you are going to have to spray it over several days. So you'll spray your bag once lightly, and you'll let that dry for 24 hours, and then you'll go out again and spray it lightly another time. Let that dry for 24 hours, and then on the third run, you'll spray it again lightly and then basically let it dry and then it'd be really porous and you will find that no water will leak through whatsoever. Um, so these are my go-tos. They both will make your fabric darker but not noticeable. So I have sprayed one piece of fabric here with it and it keeps the fabric feeling like fabric. So out of these three waterproof protectors that I'm going to show you today, it's the only one that actually makes it feel less plasticky, not plasticky, it actually feels like fabric. So it carries on feeling like you've still got cotton fabric. But if you were to chuck water at it, it will basically um, it will basically run off. Um, It doesn't leave any drip marks if it used correctly. Now, if you use, when I say use correctly, I mean as in you do the free spray process and you do it lightly. So I will go over to the next slide and then I'll come back to the cameras and show you the difference in the fabrics um, of once I've showed the different waterproofs. Right, okay, so the most expensive out of them all is Coat. However, the gel is the most effective, and I'm not kidding, it is the most effective. You only need, it says you can do two layers, but you only technically need one if you do the correct amount of spreading on it, and it doesn't need that much. I am going to show you how to use Eau de Coat today, and I'm going to show you what the fabric looks like once it's dry with one coat. And I'm also going to show you how to use how to actually put it on. Um, the other expensive thing that I will show you is Heat and Bond or Vaseline do something called Lamifix. So Vaseline call it Lamifix, Heat and Bond call it Clear Iron On Protector. That's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. They are expensive, but the only thing I don't like about them, it gives a very plastic feel to your fabric. It also makes you have creases. So when you turn the bag right side facing out, you will have creases. Now, with the sprays that I showed you with the Scotchgard, this spray, these sprays, you can spray your item after you've finished making the bag. So you can make the bag without any protection on. So you don't need to spray your fabric before you go ahead. With these two, you need to actually put the protection on your fabric before you actually make your bag or you go ahead and cut out your fabric. So if I go to, come on. So as I'm explaining, my go-to, I will talk you through this. Now this is been sprayed. I sprayed this yesterday. This is a piece of fabric that isn't sprayed or got any eau de coat or anything on it. And as you can see, the colours are near enough the same until you get really close. This one's just a hint darker. If you were to use the other sprays that I mentioned on there, um, the, not this one or the black can, you will find that your fabrics will go darker. So let me talk you through on how I actually do I spray my bags. Right, so I'm just going to get a bag. Right, it's not an everyday bag. It's a lunch bag. Now the lunch bags I will actually probably use eau de coat, or if it's for a kid, use the actual plastic film stuff. But say this is your everyday over the shoulder bag that you use, and you want it sprayed and waterproof protected. You normally have a handle on there. So in my well, I say in my greenhouse, the greenhouse has come my spray in place. My dad really doesn't use it as a greenhouse no more. He uses it as a storage. Um, so in there, when I used to make hundreds of bags, I used to put like washing line, but it wasn't washing line, it was rope on two trestles going across, had the door open all the time and had the window open up above. Even when it was raining, I would spray in there. Only reason being is it just means that um, if it did happen to rain, I didn't have to run outside and collect all the bags and stuff. There's nothing stopping you spraying it on your water, on your line, washing line outside, or even on just like a peg. You just don't want anything touching around it. So you need 10 inches all the way around it so that the air can get to it well enough to dry out within that 24 hours. And you also need to spray at a distance of 10 inches away anyway. So my bag is hanging up. Generally would, if it had a handle like a rucksack, would put a peg on it. If it was a over the shoulder bag, I would take a few coat hangers out with me. You can get coat hangers that are like these, or take those out, but I wouldn't have it touching the fabric. I would only have it touching the straps. And I don't mean on like a rucksack where you make the straps. I would have it on the webbing only webbing, because webbing's kind of waterproof anyway and stuff. So what I would do is shake this up really well. So I'll go around the house for about 5 minutes shaking it up because I can guarantee you there is Scotchgard the mild Scotchgard at the bottom. So I'll go around the house for 5 minutes shaking this, and I'm holding this on the away from me, and I basically press my button down on my spray can and just go across once, down, and I just basically lightly spray it. I'm not spraying it too close because that's when you get the drip marks that I've been talking about. You need to do this 10 inches away, which is approximately about this far. And you just do lightly sprays. Make sure you get underneath areas as well. So if you've got a chopstick or something, um, you will hold it up in your hand that you got free. Just spray it lightly in that area, bring that strap down, and do the same on the opposite side. And the worst bit that I used to say, never forget the base. So you spray the base as well. So be on your hands and knees, but not spraying up because obviously the Scotchgard will sink down to the bottom. You would have to make sure you're at a angle to get this. So once you've done that, you would let that dry for 24 hours and you would spray it all the way around. Once you've done that and let it dry, I can guarantee you it will smell. It will smell not fishy. I would say go into a petrol station, but mildly. So it's like a mild petrol station smell. Don't be put off. That smell goes, by the way. So after you've finished your third spray and after it's dried out, within 2 or 3 days of using it, that smell goes. You can't smell that smell. So once it's dried for the first dry, you then go back and do exactly the same process. Once you've done it twice, I can say that's weatherproof. And it is, when I say weatherproof, I don't mean it's like cushions of water on it. You can't chuck a tidal wave on it or anything like that, but it means that you can take it out in the rain. The only thing it won't be completely is stain proof. Now, when I say stain proof, is if you were to uh, you go to a Burger King, other brands available, and you've put too much um, barbecue sauce on your burger. I'm a barbecue sauce person, and you accidentally drop some on your bag, you will wipe it away, not with a baby wipe because it's got detergent on it, but you can wipe it away with a napkin, even a wet napkin, you can wipe it away, and you will find there'll be no stain. If you are only carrying around baby wipes and you accidentally use the baby wipe or you use something that's got a soap or something on it, which basically cleans better, you will find that that protection area, that area where you've mopped up that stain, will not basically be protected no more. So when you get back home, you're going to have to go through the spray process again of 3 times or 2 times, and basically spray it. For my personal use, I only did it 3 times when it came to selling the bags. But for my own personal use, I use rucksacks a lot. Um, and I'm always dragging them on the floor or putting them on the floor when you go to like a cafe outside, sitting outside. I used to spray mine at least once a year, and I only used to spray it on top. So first time I make it, I used to spray it 3 times, and then I will basically once a year grab my few bags that I use and just lightly spray them once, just to give them that extra boost that sometimes they need. So that's Scotchgard or the mild. So if you are going to use Scotchgard, read the instructions on the can. It says you only need to spray it once. That's heavily spraying. That's like literally keeping your finger on the button and spraying it really like in the area quite a lot. That's when your drips happen. Okay, so if you've made a bag which is cotton fabric as well as PU fabric, you still need to spray it because obviously the cotton isn't protected. So you go ahead and spray it. But what you will need to keep next to you is a damp microcloth. So when I say microcloth, you can buy them from Poundland or something like that. The ones that got fibres. It's not wet, it's damp. And where the PU is, just wipe on that area. So, for instance, if it's like the base or something, you just go ahead and wipe it because I can guarantee you will get some drip marks. You can do it once it's dried and soaked in a bit, like an hour after you've sprayed it, but you must wipe it within that first couple of hours of spraying it. Now, cork fabric, still spray it. Like I said, cork in a bottle is thick, and when you have that wine bottle, you can tip the wine bottle upside down, and the wine doesn't come out, or water won't come out. But because you've cut because the the cork has been cut really thinly to go on that fabric base, I can guarantee you, if you put some water on it and roll it around, it will be slightly damp on the fabric side. So just go ahead, spray it once or twice. You don't need to spray it 3 times. Once or twice will help, and that will stop um, any um, any drips getting through inside your bag. The other good thing to use is um, waterproof linings as well. That helps, but I can guarantee you that your fabric on the outside will get mucky as anything. So spray it once or twice just so it's protected. I personally don't really 100%. I'm getting converted slowly into waterproof linings, Ripstop or what's it called? Waterproof canvas, lightweight waterproof canvas linings. However, I'm a girl who's been brought up on doing cotton fabric linings. I just like the feel of it. I like the construction of the bag afterwards. But that's just me. But there is there is now ways that I'm getting. I don't mind using ripstop as long as it's a heavy ripstop. Anyway, does the spray affect zips or zip pulls on the bag's hardware? No. Um, the only time I've ever had a problem is when it was the Scotchgard brand. So the very first brand on that slide, the very first one on the left, where it tells you to spray it so close, so and oversaturate. What I tended to find there was like a waxy film on the zip, and the zip was opening, but it was juddery, so and it wasn't smooth like when I first put it on. So if you use the mild versions and don't like literally hold down the nozzle and spray too much, you should get away with not attacking your zips. I've personally never had a problem with this brand or with the black canister brand with hardware and that. Where there's metal tags on your bag, where it says handmade, because it's quite a large surface area, or those who have got their own tags of their businesses made, you might want to wipe it afterwards, or you can put some masking tape on top. That's, but to be fair, I've never had a problem. I never have ever covered up any hardware, and that's even those when I used to have tags, bigger tags on my bags and that. Right, okay, so I'm just going to put these to one side. If you can't find those brands on Amazon, I will find the links for you over this weekend and put them in the group. Because there is some good deals, like the black canisters ones. You can buy a pack of 6 for about 20 something pounds. And if you're like me, well, when I used to make to sell, I used to go through about 30 odd canisters a year, making hundreds of bags. So if you're one of those people that does it, a lot of bags a year, then having a pack of 6 is nothing. Um, and you can also put on your Etsy shop or wherever you sell it that they are waterproofed. Or if you want to cover your bags, say weatherproof or rain resistant, as the shops do with your coats and that. Right, so the next thing I'm going to talk you through is Lamy Fix. Mm, love-hate relationship with Lamy Fix. So I've got the Heat and Bond version. Um, I have ordered the Vaseline one. I can get this, but it's a lot more expensive and you guys will be spending a lot more. I've come to the conclusion if I'm making a lunchbox set or a wash bag for a child, I will end up using this. But if I'm making it for an adult, I'll end up using this. And I'll show you why. So let me go to the front view camera. Right, okay. Hi. Right, okay. So this is this is fabric that's not been treated. This is got a plastic sheen to it. I hate it. It leaves creases in it, as you can see. There's creases. It scrunches up. You can probably hear that in my earpiece. It's horrible. And as you can see, you can't iron that out. So if you are like me, when you finish making your bag, you really want to press it. I always want to press it just so it looks neat and tidy if I'm giving it away as a gift. You can't give that away to a gift as a gift. I'm sorry, you can't. However, a kid wouldn't mind that. To be fair, it's going to get battered with a kid anyway. So personally, yeah, I just don't like this. So you must always use Lamy Fix or Heat and Bond clear vinyl iron-on protector. That's such a tongue twister. If you are going to use this plasticky stuff, you must do it on your fabric before you go ahead and make your item. This is going to cause a few problems for some people. When you are sewing on your sewing machine, you're going to need a Teflon foot or walking foot adamant, you're going to need it. If you've got stabilizer on the back of this, i.e. foam, fleece, interfacing, a good interfacing like Fuse-It, this is going to be a lot harder to sew. Also, your stitches can't be very tight because how do I know? Because I tried it at the weekend. I did a test where it was very tight and it started perforating. It wasn't the fabric that was perforating. This bit wasn't perforating. The good side, well, the fabric side, is plastic. So you got to bear this in mind. If you are doing a bias bound edge, i.e., on a lunchbox that's got bias bound or makeup bag that's bias bound finish, I would use that to be fair, if but obviously not having to sew the bias binding on by hand afterwards. I would use this for a kid, but I really wouldn't use this. I'm not really selling it, am I? Because I've got some coming in. But to be fair, I am making my niece and nephew a lunchbox kit. My sister's asked me, and she says it needs to be very waterproof. I don't mind plastic fabric. That was her words to me on WhatsApp on a video the other week. I said, "Oh, I know what I can use, Lamy Fix." It's only because they are very messy kids, especially Evie, and she can literally get food everywhere. And Sarah said, I've made her a lunch bag in the past, and she's had to like use it herself rather than let Evie use it. So this, I'm going to be making Eva's out of this plastic and Jack's. So basically, yeah, so that's my persistent. I'm going to show you how to fix it on in a minute when I go to the overhead camera. I'm just going to go and talk you through Eau-de-Cloth, Eau-de-Coat. I keep calling it Eau-de-Cloth, I don't know why. Eau-de-Coat, it's the most expensive, but that will last you a long time. So this, you do need to have your ventilation. I'm just going to do it without ventilation, but you do need ventilation. Um, you need to do at least one layer. I've only done one layer on this, and it's waterproof. But personally, it says you need to do two. I find the fabric gets a bit too thick when it's two. You need to have an old credit card. I use my old football season pass. um, for Shifnal Town. Yay, go Shifnal Town. And you'll need to do this in advance before you want to even sow your project. When I say advance, I mean one coat takes 24 hours to dry, two coats take 48 hours to dry. So if it's something that you want to make for Joe Bloggs down the street for their birthday next week, for tomorrow, this is not the product to use. I would just go ahead and use Scotchgard. However, if you're wanting it to be personalised or nice and nice finish, go ahead and use this. Now, does anybody know what wax canvas is? So Farmer Girl here, from a farming industry. So farmers back in the day when my grandpa, my dad, and all that lot were on the farm, they used to wear these green, heavy, smelly coats, and that's not from the pigs because we had a pig farm. Um, that's not from the pigs or the goats or the rams. Um, it was this waxy coat. This is what this product will feel like, a bit like a wax canvas. So this is got no, as you can see, it's got no product on. This has got eau de coat. There is hardly, there is a change in the colour by one tone. I can scrunch this up. I can still scrunch that up, bounces back, and the creases are, I've scrunched this up so many times, the creases do drop out. You can also iron from this side and the creases drop out. That's one thing you can't do with the plastic. Once the plastic's on, you can't iron it from that side. Once the plastic's on, it you don't go near an iron or press or whatever. This you can go ahead and lightly on one dot press it on the fabric side that hasn't got the protection on. This has only got one one eau de coat um, spread on it. When I say spread, you spread it on. It says brush it on. Personally, I don't like brushing it on. I used to use brushes, but once it dried, you could see where sometimes if you don't use a good brush, which I never used to, your brushes in between your bristles, you may have a channel that is like a millimetre thick and hasn't had any eau de coat on it. Also, with scraping with eau de coat, it means that you can get an even spread all over. So just find an old card. We've all got them, points cards and stuff like that, old credit cards, or um, or you can do what do you call it? Wallpaper scraping. You know when you're taking wallpaper off the walls with a steamer. You can use one of those as well. So you'll need something to scoop out the tub because wallpaper scrapers tend to be quite wider, and it's the same process. Or a perfect example is a cake frosting palette knife. You can use one of those as well. It's you just need something that's got a bit of a flex to it, so you can basically get a nice even coat when you're flexing. And you'll need paper down. So you'll end up doing the eau de coat before you cut your fabric. So with these two, I'm just going back to the plastic one and the eau de coat. With these two, when you sew, there is holes generated, and that when you've punched those holes, the water still can leak in. If you spray after the bag is finished using the Scotchgard, Scotchgard will spray over the thread, the sewn lines that you've done, and the holes. So you just got to bear that in mind that that's a possibility that water can still probably leak in, blah blah blah. But it's highly unlikely, but it can happen. Right, so I'm going to go to the overhead camera and we're going to show you how to actually do these. I'm going to start off with the plastic film to get that out of the way. It varies between the two manufacturers. Does the fabric shrink at all with the Odacoat? No. But saying that, Kathleen, if you're doing one of my patterns, I overestimate on fabric anyway. So for instance, if you cut your shapes out, so where's templates? Oh, let me show a template that I'm working on at the moment. I'll do the base because you kind of know what a base looks like. Right, so here's a base template that I'm working on the bag pattern. I'll make sure my fabric's on the fold, but I will cut that piece a bit bigger, just slightly, then spread the Odacoat on it. Obviously let it dry, do one or two spreads over it over 2 sessions, and then basically I will then fold the Odacoat, fold that piece of fabric once it's completely dry, and then cut the fabric out. That's how I personally would do it. But there is makers out there that will cut the pattern piece to the size when the fabric's normal without any protection on, and they will put the Odacoat on. I personally don't think it shrinks, personally myself, but for extra protection for yourself, just in case it happens, which it could, they might use a new formula and not talk about it or anything like that. Cut it 1 centimetre bigger than the actual template all the way around. But if it's got a fold, make sure you fold your fabric. Just must stress that. Let me just put these away. This is for an up and coming pattern, but it won't be ready soon. Right, okay. So for the plastic film, it does shrink. So this is, and it's like, it only shrinks like less than 1/4 of an inch all the way around, so you won't actually notice. So what my motto is, if you are using the Lamy-Fix or the Heat and Bond stuff, you do need to basically, what I would say, cut it slightly bigger. Right, so with the Heat and Bond, it has got a paper film to it. With the Lamy-Fix, it doesn't. When you get your plastic vinyl through the post, if it's folded, please scream at the seller, because if this is folded, you'll have a permanent crease in the vinyl, and the same with Lamy-Fix. If they're a good seller, they should put elastic bands on it and roll it up and send it through the post like that. Only because it stops any creases getting onto it, and if there's a crease when it goes onto your fabric to start off with, then you'll have an air pocket, which then is a weak point within the actual clear vinyl. So it is different for both brands. So this one comes with a paper finish, which is the Heat and Bond. This is the Heat and Bond one. If you are to buy the Lamy-Fix, it actually has no paper on it whatsoever, and you just go straight to use. So personal preference, I like the paper. However, it's the same kind of principle of what we're about to do. So obviously you would have this measurement and you go by this. You cut it to the actual size of the fabric or shorter than the fabric. So just going to hold that on and trim right next to the fabric. You don't want it longer because you don't want it sticking onto your mat, your heat mat. You don't want it getting onto your iron. And you're going to have to use some form of protection for your iron. So when I say protection, like a cloth or a silicone mat, or in this case, with this brand, you use the actual paper to self-adhese it on. Right, I have found that scraping eau de coat on can distort the fabric. It can, yeah. Okay, so I will talk you through that. If it's not not tightly woven. So I have learnt to make the pieces larger and work out the layout and just treat the amount. Yeah, that's a good thing. I personally would make the pieces bigger. Um, I wouldn't take half a meter of fabric and do the whole half a meter fabric because I can guarantee you I won't be using all that half a meter. But if you are, for instance, only using that amount for a pocket on the outside, for instance, I would just cut it a bit bigger and then put the eau de coat on. Now, I find that not pulling on the corners, so you need to learn about the weave of the fabric. Now, that's when I'll get to the eau de coat, I'll talk about that. Right, let me just get this set up. Right, so depending on which manufacturer you use, you need to put this at the temperature that it is. So the Heat and Bond one is 2 dots. Okay, this is what, so Heat and Bond stick on, you know what they use, Delphine uses on Sewing Street. You got the plastic bit. You normally put that on and iron, and then you peel the paper off once it's cooled down. The clear vinyl's totally different. Okay, so what you have to do is use your nails, which I don't tend to have at the moment. Peel the plastic off. You've got a matte side, a sticky matte side, which is the side that you want to put on here. Make sure there is nothing on your fabric, so you might want to go with a lint roller over. Oh, mine's kind of alright. And you've got a shiny side, which is the side that needs to be right side facing up. And you stick that over on your fabric. It is like sticky back plastic, it is. As you can see, the colour has slightly changed. It's gone like a totally matte finish. It's not completely stuck down. If you've got any overhang, I'm slightly off there, but I'm not going to peel it off and distort my fabric. I'm just going to cut away any pieces of plastic that's overhanging so it doesn't attack my mats, if you understand where I'm coming from. You also find it doesn't stick down until you actually pop the iron on it. Okay, then you're going to use this. You've got a waxy side and the paper side. You put the waxy side down on the plastic and you move around in 8-second intervals. So I'm not going to count. I'm just going to hold it there for 8 seconds-ish. Move it to the next point. And I'm not rubbing it, as you can see, I'm not rubbing it. So, because I don't want this paper to slip, if you understand where I'm coming from. Same with this here. Just gliding it across to where the adhesive parts are, and that I haven't pressed. And don't over press it either. You can use a press, so if you've got like a steam press, you don't want no steam in it. Same with your irons, you don't want no steam in it, you're just going to go ahead and just press that on. Okay, and then you're just going to now peel that off. Let that cool down before you do anything to it. If it hasn't adhered down, you will see little bubbles in certain areas. Like I've got a little bubble there actually, to be fair. So you just get your paper, hold it on, and pull it off. And that's, I've got no bubble there now. You really need to let that cool down. It's cool here, but it's not cool on this side because I've just pressed it again. Then you can go ahead and sew. If you're having to stabilize this fabric, i.e. with heavy stabilizer, I will get my fabric first, put my heavy stabilizers on the reverse, as you would do, treating it like normal. Then I would basically, obviously, already trimmed out my protective vinyl, and then I would basically pop that on and pop the vinyl on with the stabilizer attached underneath and press. It's not going to attack your stabilizer and it's not going to do anything to your fabric. The only thing you might find is if, like most of my patterns, I say trim back heavy stabilizer, so that's foam and fleece or Decaville out of your seam areas. You might need to go over and press your iron on extra after you've pressed the center and do that motion. That will just basically mean it's getting an even press on those sides as well. Because if you were to press it on this side from here, you might find that because the iron's slightly uneven, it's not getting enough pressure to press the plastic on the seam areas. So you might just have to go round and press. Now that's cool. You will find it rolls. So as you can see, it's rolling. That's a shrinkage thing, that is. So yes, cut it slightly bigger. It also will roll once you've cut it as well. Do not pin it. Use quilter's tape a lot. And clips. Do not pin. The only time a hole should be perforated in this is with your sewing machine. Now, the stitch length that I found was the best. Once I had a bit of stabilizer inside, I folded it in half and I did a test going across. And then I pulled it apart at the back. 4 was too big. If for a seam, I'm talking about, this is not for top stitching, this is for a seam. 4 was too big. I found a 3.5 was okay-ish, but a number 3 or 3.2 was the best. Made sure that it wasn't going to perforate, it wasn't going to rip your fabric, it wasn't going to make the plastic rip, shall I say. And when you pulled it apart, it was still locked very good in the back, in between the layers. Because I don't know if many of you know, your bobbin thread and your top thread, they interlock, they loop, and they lock when they actually sew a straight stitch. So that is vinyl, clear vinyl. I'm just going to turn off my iron and move all of this to one side. Personally, I'm not a lover. I'm not a hater either. I don't mind Marmite to a point where it's lightly spreaded on something. So this is what this reminds me of. The Marmite of Marmite in my thing, in my taste, basically. Okay, so this here has lost the, when I scrunched it up in front of that camera over there, it's lost all those creases. This is Odecote. I have got more of this coming in. I have stocked it in the past. It isn't cheap. I think it's about 20 to 25 pounds a bowl. That's this size. That's 250 mil. Not a lot. However, it does a lot. It really does do a lot. Okay, so if your card's too big to get inside, you need to get an old spoon that you don't mind keeping just for this, or something to scoop up. I can scoop with this and I get the excess back into the pot. As you can see, it looks like a glue. It feels like a glue, but it's a gel. Let me just refocus. It's a gel. So when I put, so as I was talking about, and we were talking about that it can distort, I'm just going to pull my fabric now before I put this on. It can distort your fabric. Don't hold the corners, hold the side when you're actually doing it. So for instance, when you've got it on your paper, hold where the distortion part of the non-distorted parts are. So remember the corners distorts your fabric. The sides don't distort your fabric basically. It can stretch, but not that much compared to on the bias. So you can stretch quite much on that. Okay, so you scoop quite a lot out. So, and it's like a gel. It's like a glue gel here. And let me just refocus. Okay, and it goes on like a gel. I just don't understand it. And as you can see, I'm holding the edges, and I'm just making sure there's no creases. And as you can see, I'm using the actual front and back of the card. Now, I've got quite thick paste here, so then I will get the actual card at 90 degrees and run it down and get the excess off and start scraping that back into the tub or a pot. Okay, that's on a piece of paper. You must lift it off your paper at some point. So let me just get that excess off there. But before I go and lift it off, what I am going to do is hold this up to the light, and if you rotate it, you will see where that eau coat has covered and where it hasn't covered. So I've got a patch here that hasn't covered quite well. So I'll just basically put a tip in. No, you don't use much. Now this is just one layer and you must let it dry. Before you put another layer on. And I mean completely dry. And when I say dry, you must dry it in the house as well. And fairly not where there's much dust. So if you've got construction going on, like John Scott's got a new kitchen being built, I wouldn't eau de coat whatsoever in that house while there's new construction going on. Only because you got fibres in the air, you might be breathing them in, you don't know, but it might drop on to the gluey parts where the actual protection is. Just basically, it should be shiny, but that shininess goes. So I've got this here. It's not shiny. It's a matte finish. Once it's actually finished drying. Now I would leave that for 24 hours. If I want to make it stronger, I've actually put quite a bit of water on this earlier on just to see how much water, and it was running off. It wasn't even coming through to the back, and that's only doing one actual spread over it. So it's up to you. Personally, I will personally probably only do one spread of the stuff, so it makes the 20 odd pounds go further. But you must make sure it's dry before you do anything. Then you can cut out your fabric. You must, for instance, fuse any interfacing on before you do this bit. But you can fuse fusible fleece afterwards. So, or fusible heavy stabilizer on afterwards. What you must do though is on your pressing mat, you must put some form of protection on it. So, for instance, a silicone mat or In the oven, I sometimes use a brown mat, which is a silicone mat. I use one of those, or you can use baking paper. Just put that on your ironing board. Then obviously put the Oda coat onto the whatever mat is your protection of your ironing board. And then you can put your fusible fleece on or your uh what's it called, foam. You'll need to then basically put that on top, get a pressing cloth. I've got a manky pressing cloth here, but you get a pressing cloth, pop that on top, and you use no steam in your iron. So you can go ahead and press that on, but if you can't use any steam in your iron, you can spray this just a little. But I mean, I personally wouldn't use any steam whatsoever. And you will just basically have to adhere it at a longer time interval. So, for instance, on like fusible fleece and foam, it says hold it on a setting 2 with a wet cloth for 15 seconds. So I would hold it on for 15 seconds, pull the iron off, and then quickly put it back down again for another 5 to 10 seconds. Generally, your fusible fleece and foam would have stuck. Make sure you put your interfacing on your fabric before you go ahead and put your paste on, basically. Okay, let me just close this up. I personally never wipe my cards. I just make sure I get all the excess stuff. I've had this pot and I have done about 20 odd bags with it for family friends. And I'm not even a centimetre down. So yeah, it goes a long way. It might You might think that you're spending a lot, but it does go a very long way. I have got more of this coming in, which you'll be able to use your Threads Gang discount on. I've just ordered some today, with some Fabric Boost. Now, Fabric Boost is something that I do use, which is basically um a heavy starch that you spray your fabric first. But I'll talk you through that on another stage. The good thing about this is wipeable. You can use baby wipes on it afterwards. You can use something with soap on it afterwards, and it's still waterproof. Um, I don't know if this has got a oh right, okay, yeah. So this hasn't got a uh it can stain what so if you were to use the McDonald's sauce as got onto your Odeco, it could possibly stain. But you can use a baby wipe to get it off. As soon as it goes onto the bag, you can use a baby wipe and you don't need to actually do it anymore, Odeco. It's acid free and it's not toxic. It says it's not toxic, but it says later down you need ventilation. Have that as you wish. Um, personally, have that out, see how you wish with that one because isn't that just covering their bottoms? I might have a go with that on my puffin lunch panel from Stone Street. Yeah. Um, so the bags that I'm making for the kids are the puffin and the food one because Jack says he wants the food one. Um, and I'm going to use this. Evie's going to have the plastic vinyl, but Jack, he's 12 now. I think he can get away with this more than anything. But honestly, have a go, see what works best for you. Um, if you're using, there's one YouTuber that I've not a YouTuber, there's a TikToker and a Facebook creator that I use who makes bags for a living, and she only makes bags out of waterproof, um, not waterproof canvas, it's um, wax canvas. But she does only these tote bags. She's a lovely lady, American. I think she's American. She could be Canadian. sometimes you get the accent mixed up. She makes these tote bags, but there is a pocket of normal fabric on the front. She uses Odecote, so she basically has a day session of Odecote and everything, and her whole house is covered with Odecote pockets everywhere, drying. But she uses Odecote because it actually feels like the wax canvas, and that's why she actually uses it. So that's today's session. I personally wouldn't mind people asking if you want tips on anything else. So I've done cleaning the sewing machine, um, different types of needles. I've done your protection of your bags now. So is there anything that you really want to learn about that you know we all do? Um, I'm not going to teach you how to do templates because I do get asked that quite often. I'm not going to teach that because it is a long-winded process and I use software as well. So I'm not going to lie, I use software. So to help me with my calculations or my dyslexia moments, as I call it. So I'm not going to teach you that, but I can teach you other stuff within the sewing industry. Yeah, so yeah. So the next live is on, fingers crossed, on a Wednesday, and that is on the 25th of February. Subject to change, it could, and it's a very small, quick make. I need to do this one because it's going to be on a panel coming up on Sewing Street, not my show coming up, but the following month in March. So I need to get that shown to you guys. Yeah. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If you want to learn something different or something on those lines, please don't hesitate to ask it and I will show you. Yeah. So if you are a retreat person and you're coming on the retreat, some of you would already started receiving your kits through the post, and some of you would have already started receiving your patterns. The Facebook chat group will start up on Sunday, so you can start chatting amongst yourselves. I'm waiting for one payment from someone. I've still got their kit at my dad's, which needs to be sent out. It just gives you time to start cutting out. We still have a few places left, but that's for pattern only, not fabric only. Um, thank you, Becky. An interesting session. Never tried Odecote. You will be trying it now. So just to talk you through the pattern um, of the retreat, it's these blocks here, and it's very simple, either half square triangles or squares, and it will make this pattern here. You don't need that much fabric. Well, you do actually, but if you just want to make certain parts of the quilt, you can do. You can even, one person says, I don't want it that big because the size of it is 67 inches wide by 67 inches. She goes, can I do two across and or three in a diagonal, three in a diagonal, so it's like an X? I said, yeah, you can go ahead. So you just move one of those triangle pieces over there, one underneath there, and make it into like a rectangle shape. So yeah, that's this retreat. These are ready to go out if anybody wants them. And the chat will have the digital download in it from Sunday if that person has paid. If that person hasn't paid, these will go by emails. I'm just waiting for the one person to pay for the final payment. Um, and then advent calendars, those will start going out next month as well. So anybody that's had an Easter advent calendar, 4-day Easter advent calendar, those will start going out mid-March. So yeah, it's all happening really fast. So yeah, I'm on Sewing Street on the 23rd of this month. I'm doing the Sycamore bag. What else am I doing? A quilt. which is not here no more. I was just about to point to a box up there, which is brand new to Sewing Street, which isn't one of mine, it's a kit. The designers asked me to help demonstrate it um, from Riley Blake. Um, and the other thing that I'm doing is the mini project bag case. Now, the mini project case, there's 3 new panels that have come in, and I think I'm in love with the one. So, yeah, one's a sewing theme, one's an artist theme, and one is a floral theme. I'm in love with the floral theme one myself and the sewing one. So, yeah. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Don't forget there is the money off code in the featured section. Also, this will not be a live. Will This video will disappear from Facebook within 30 days after this live. Go over to Princess's spreadsheet once I've put this into the hidden area of YouTube, and you'll be able to watch this back and watch it as many times as you want. Don't forget, at the end of the month is my birthday week, so we will be doing discount, sale, and mystery boxes. Yeah, I think that is everything. Yeah, it is. Right, so bye everybody, and have a lovely weekend.